Okay, we're on the very last few pages, on page 166, Swami Chetananda's reminiscences. He was a monk of the Ramakrishna order, served Latu Maharaj during his years in Varanasi, and associated with him closely. He's the author of 2 books in Bengali on Latu Maharaj. And I think one of them is the Adbhutananda Prasanga, and I don't know what the other one is. One afternoon when Latu Maharaj was living at Pandey Howley's house in Varanasi, a devotee knocked at the door. Latu Maharaj called down from upstairs, "Who's there?" "It is Rameshwar from Rangoon," the man replied. Latu Maharaj immediately asked his attendant to open the door and let him in. We were struck by the exceptional love and affection Latu Maharaj showed for this devotee. Rameshwar Babu stayed with Latu for about a month, and then one day he expressed a desire to return to Rangoon. Latu Maharaj said, "Why do you want to go back home? Stay at this holy place and visit the temples of Vishwanath and Annapurna. Keep the company of holy people. Varanasi is the abode of Shiva. One should spend one's time here to the best advantage." Latu Maharaj once asked Rameshwar Babu to go to Chandra Maharaj, who was in charge of the Ramakrishna Advaita Ashram Varanasi, for spiritual advice. This sounds a little funny, but in Varanasi, in the same compound, they have the Ramakrishna Home of Service, which is a hospital, and right across a little patio is the Ramakrishna Advaita Ashram, which is not part of the service organization, it's part of the monastery. So it's 2 different things that go on. When Ramesh came back, Latu Maharaj asked him what advice he had received. The devotee replied, "Chandra Maharaj told me that in this world one has to suffer the results of his karma. But if one calls on God with all his heart and soul, God will certainly shower mercy on that person and release him from the bondage of Maya. Then that person does not have to suffer the results of his karma. He who has created this universe and made the laws by which it is governed can also break the laws. Everything is the will of God. If he wishes, God can release man from the results of his karma. One of the many names of God is Kalpamochan, changer of destiny." One day Rameshwar Babu asked, "Maharaj, is it good to eat meat and fish?" Smiling, Latu Maharaj replied, "What's wrong with eating meat and fish? So long as your mind wants them, then eat them. When you don't feel like eating them, then don't. The main thing in spiritual life is to have love, devotion, and faith in God. He is our close relative. He lives in the hearts of all beings. One does not incur sin for taking something for maintaining the body. Eating meat or fish cannot harm a person who has steadfast love for God." Another day, Latu Maharaj asked Rameshwar Babu, "How is your wife?" He answered, "She's a good woman, but I don't think she has much knowledge of God." With a smile, Latu Maharaj said, "Oh, she does not have knowledge of God, but you do? Your wife has got what she needs. Now you try for something for yourself." Rameshwar Babu's wife was a pure and devoted woman, and Latu Maharaj knew this through his spiritual insight. She died peacefully a few years later. In 1918, after the First World War, a devotee came to visit Latu Maharaj, wearing his military uniform, as he had no other clothes. He felt uncomfortable sitting in front of a holy man in that dress, and after a while he decided that he should go to the marketplace and buy some civilian clothing. So he asked Latu Maharaj's permission to go out for a little while, saying he would be back soon. The Swami was in an elevated mood. Immediately he said to his attendant, "Give a dhoti to this devotee. He feels shy about being here in his military uniform. The devotee felt embarrassed and said, Maharaj, what are you saying? It is for us to give things to you and not the other way around. Everything here is for the devotees, Latu Maharaj says. I need very little. One day, when Latu Maharaj was surrounded by many devotees who had come to see him in the course of conversation, he said, a knower of Brahman can give liberation. Can't he give money and wealth also? But gold and riches are insignificant things. By his mere wish, a knower of Brahman can give you anything you want. Know for certain that his wish and God's wish are the same. There is a special manifestation of God in a knower of Brahman. Another day, a devotee asked, Maharaj, why doesn't everybody have plenty of money? Good question. Latu Maharaj replied, have you seen the feasts in Calcutta where many people sit in rows and servers distribute the food? Some older relatives may call out to the servers, Sir, please give 2 more sweets to this boy and 1 more to that one. But the servers know that little boys cannot eat much and that if they eat too much, they will be sick. So, in spite of the men shouting, the servers use their own judgment in distributing food. They may even force more food on some boys if they see that they're good eaters. So it is with God. He distributes wealth according to the capacity of each individual. You see, God is the compassionate one. He wants to give to us lavishly. But if we get too much, we shall lose our balance. So he gives to us very judiciously. During that time when Latu Maharaj was living at Hararbagh in Varanasi, a certain devotee was outside smoking and chatting with other devotees. The Swami came to know of it and remarked, people come to Varanasi on pilgrimage for holy company, and those rascals are gossiping. Ask that devotee to come here. When the devotee came, Latu Maharaj told him affectionately to massage his feet. Then he said, you have come to Varanasi for holy company and to serve holy people. Instead, you are wasting your time indulging in idle talk. The Swami would not often accept personal service from people other than his own attendants, but sometimes out of compassion, he would ask someone to serve him for that person's spiritual welfare. Every evening, Latu Maharaj's supply of milk would be brought by a young milkmaid. Once he noticed that a devotee was talking and joking with her. He said to the devotee, it is evening, time for evening meditation. You have come to a holy man to think about God, and instead you are joking with that girl. No one could discuss any topic other than God with Latu Maharaj. One day when a devotee started to talk about worldly things, Latu Maharaj expressed his displeasure and changed the subject. When the conversation would turn to Sri Ramakrishna and Swami Vivekananda, he would totally forget himself. Once he started to talk about the Master and Swamiji at 7:30 a.m. and continued till 2:30 p.m. He was not even aware that he had forgotten to have his lunch until his attendant reminded him that the devotees had not yet eaten. Latu Maharaj would not sleep at all at night. If someone entered his room, he would say, "Who's there?" He told one devotee, "Don't watch me. I do whatever I like. When I wish to practice japa and meditation, I do so. When I don't wish to, I don't. It should not matter to you." Who could understand his moods? We noticed that in the latter part of his life, Latu Maharaj could clearly see the inner workings of people's minds. Once a devotee asked, Maharaj, is it true that if a person practices truthfulness for 12 years, he becomes established in truth and whatever he says happens? Even if he speaks of something that is impossible, will that also turn out to be true? Latu Maharaj smiled and replied, certainly those who have spoken the truth for 12 years must have practiced truth in thought too. Thus they can no longer even think of something that is impossible, much less say it. They can only speak what is true, nothing else. By practicing truthfulness for 12 years, the body and mind become controlled, and one is unable to say anything that is untrue or absurd. Whenever he saw somebody angry, he would say, "Don't touch him. He has become an untouchable. If you touch him, you will have to bathe to purify yourself again." If anyone did something wrong out of anger, Latu Maharaj would not say anything to him until his anger had subsided. He used to say, "It is a waste of energy, a fruitless endeavor, to try to calm a person who has lost his temper. It works better if you talk to him when he has regained his composure." To a monk who made a mistake, he said, "If you do anything wrong when you're living with me, it will tarnish the reputation of Sri Ramakrishna. People will question, is this the teaching of the Master? But if you are pure and honest, people will know that you are following the Master's wishes." Latu Maharaj used to speak of Sister Nivedita's love for Swami Vivekananda, her guru, and how when they were traveling in Kashmir, as Swamiji would get down from his horse, Nivedita would also untie the laces of his shoes. Latu Maharaj used to repeat, "Guru Kripa He Kevalam." The grace of the Guru is the only thing needful. It makes even the impossible become possible. One cannot understand the greatness of his Guru if he does not live with him. One day, that was a statement I read, and I decided I had to move into the convent to live with my Guru for a while. One day, during his last illness, we took him to the Annapurna temple in Varanasi. The temple was very crowded. Latu Maharaj stood before the deity, supported by several people. His body was motionless. His hands folded and his eyes unblinking, he gazed at the mother. He was seeing the divine manifestation he was seeing the living manifestation of the Divine Mother. He had no consciousness of the outer world. Tears were rolling down his cheeks, and his hair stood on end. Those who witnessed that ecstatic mood were really blessed. Carefully, his attendants took him back to his residence. The rest of the day, he lay down quietly. When he was asked if he would take some food, he did not respond at all. Many devotees would come to visit Latu Maharaj, but because of his illness, we would not allow too many people to see him. When he saw the eagerness of his devotees, he said, "Don't stop them. It's a pleasure to me to speak about God. This body is not permanent. It will die after a few days. But don't be sad. How many people want to hear about God? That desire comes through God's special grace. Real yearning for God is the result of associating with the holy. And a person gets the opportunity for holy company only as a result of many good actions. At first, it is hard to realize the value of holy company, but one eventually comes to understand its effects." Any comments on that reminiscence?
Why would Nivedita untie Swamiji's shoes when he got down from his horse? Did I understand that right?
Well, he would be usually, but then when they got ready, they would go visit the temple first, and he wouldn't have to do it. She was anticipating his needs before he even needed it.
Oh,
They said there were 3 classes of devotees. One who does what the guru says. One who will, I can't remember what the middle one, but the third one is the one who supplies what the guru needs before the guru even knows he needs it. We had a great example of that here in Southern California with Brother Krishnananda. If any of you who remember when Swami Prabhupada was alive, if there was anything that Swami P needed, Brother had it in the trunk of his car. And before anyone could even say we need that, he would go to the trunk and bring it in. Superior devotee. Okay. Now, this is our last reminiscence in this book, and it's Swami Vasudevananda, a monk of the Ramakrishna order. He was at one time the editor of the Adbhutananda, a Bengali magazine published by the Ramakrishna order. And this, it seems to be translated from the Adbhutananda articles.
You have a hand up, Krishna.
Okay. Who?
And please increase your volume.
Oh, Davey, can you increase my volume a tiny bit? Who had their hand up?
Ganga.
Ganga.
You're welcome.
Okay.
Hi. My question was about Holy Company. Does it matter if you're physically close to Holy Company? Does that make any sense? We live in a virtual age. So I wonder sometimes if it would benefit more to be in direct contact with holy people versus virtual contact.
I'm sure, could you go a little bit slower, Gunga? It's a tiny bit garbled.
Yeah, my service is a little bad. I'm sorry. I was asking about Holy Company, virtual versus in person. We live in a virtual age, and it's easy for us, especially if we live far away, to come onto Zoom. But
Yeah.
is there more of a benefit to be physically closer to Holy Company?
Well, in the virtual age, Holy Company. Now, that's one of the best things that I've seen come out of the pandemic. For me, it's really annoying, but it's one of the best things that has come out, is that anyone, anywhere, can be an active part of the things that are going on. And I think it's fantastic. So that is Holy Company. Reading holy books is Holy Company. Listening to holy music, all of those things are considered Holy Company. And thanks to our virtual age, you can have it. In fact, many of our devotees said they were listening to way more Vedanta during the pandemic than they ever did before. Because they were kind of stuck at home and they missed coming to the temple, so they tuned into all kinds of things that were going on. The Swamis all over the country, they were listening to their talks. And as I say, I think that's fantastic. So, I didn't like the pandemic, didn't like being shut down, but good things come out of everything. So, we'll finish this book right now. In 1916, this is Swami Vasudevananda, I visited Varanasi with Swami Premananda and Swami Shivananda. One day during our stay, Swami Premananda, Baburam Maharaj, sent Swami Raghavananda and myself to visit Latu Maharaj, where he was staying in the Sonapura area of Varanasi. When we arrived, Latu Maharaj was lying on an improvised cot on the veranda, covered from head to toe with a chadar. His attendant, Pashupatnanda, Pashupati asked us to wait a moment, saying that Latu Maharaj would soon be awake. So we seated ourselves on a carpet near him. Suddenly, Latu Maharaj startled us by shouting, "I don't like to talk with educated boys. Go away, go away." We were stunned, but Pashupati began to laugh and motioned for us not to move. Charu, another attendant of Latu Maharaj, came into the room and greeted Swami Raghavananda. He then introduced me to Latu Maharaj, saying, "This is Harihar," the pre-monastic name. In India, most of the Swamis go by their pre-monastic names. Baburan Maharaj's attendant. Charu already knew that Baburan Maharaj had sent me to visit Latu Maharaj. Still lying on his cot, Latu Maharaj asked his attendants, "Have you given these boys any prasad?" Then he removed his chadar and said to us, now you can imagine this. Here's this monk lying under a chadar doing this shouting and talking. Now I'm an old man, so I sleep a bit in the daytime. He asked us about news from Bellar Monastery and about the welfare of Swami Brahmananda, Premananda, and Shivananda, and M. After a day or two, he said to me, "I shall visit Baburam." Swami Raghavananda said, "Maharaj, please tell us something about Sri Ramakrishna." Latu Maharaj, "What can I say? You are all educated boys. I am just an illiterate person here at the feet of Vishwanath. Out of his infinite compassion, he gives me a little food. I am now an old man, so he arranges for an attendant for me. Times are bad. Previously, 2 annas could buy 2 meals. Now that will not buy even 1. And finally, old age has come. I like that saying of Lawrence, that's Swamiji's. It is troublesome to have a body. This body is truly the cause of all suffering." He continued to speak in his mixture of Hindi and Bengali. "Renunciation alone makes one fearless," said Bharati Hari. "Where is there in this world? What is there in this world? Sri Ramakrishna used to say, seed and skin." It's from the story about the hog plum. No one could show his pride or lose his No one should show his pride or lose his temper, for the moment he does so, Maya will snare him. Instead, one should surrender completely and wait. Who knows when Vishwanath's great grace will fall upon you? Only self-surrender is necessary. Do not fear, for someday the grace of the Lord will come to you. Sri Ramakrishna used to say, before evening, you will receive a leaf plate. Have patience and wait. That's from at large festivals in India, food is distributed on leaf plates. As everyone cannot be served at once, some may have to wait until nightfall before receiving their plate, but eventually everyone will be served. Swami Raghavananda said, "Maharaj, Vishwanath has blessed you. Please tell him to bless us as well." Latu Maharaj said, "Yes, sometimes Vishwanath showers his grace on me, but bear in mind, my son, that if you want his grace, you will have to lie at his door like a faithful dog. The vision of God does not depend on your will. You must depend on his. You must resign yourself completely. What is it to him whether you want him or not? If you want, you can reap the benefits of blessedness. If you don't, he won't care. But Maya will hypnotize you and enslave you." On another day, Baburam Maharaj went to visit Latu Maharaj, accompanied by several of us, including Swamis Vishuddhananda, Madhavananda, Raghavananda, and Chetanananda. This time also, Latu Maharaj was lying on the same improvised cot with his chadar covering him from head to foot. Baburam Maharaj addressed him, "Hello, Paramatman, get up, get up." "Why do you disturb me?" replied Latu from beneath his chadar. "I didn't get any sleep at all last night." "Come, sir, get up, get up. I know very well that you are meditating." At that, Latu Maharaj got up and the two brother disciples exchanged greetings. Then all of us moved from the roof porch to Latu Maharaj's room. Baburam Maharaj and Latu Maharaj sat on the cot, and the rest of us sat on the carpet. After some small talk, Baburam Maharaj said to Latu, "Well, please describe the Master's love for us." He answered, "Oh, that is inexpressible. How can a man understand God's love? When we listen to the reading of the Bhagavatam, we get some understanding of the love of the gopis of Vrindavan for Krishna. But just how much Sri Krishna loved them, of that we have no idea. Reading and hearing the scriptures can give us only an inkling of the depth of this love. The gopis were not aware of what attracted them to Krishna. They did not know the cause. Does iron know how the magnet attracts it? Pointing to us, Baburam Maharaj said, "Have you ever heard an explanation such as this? Sound him out well and compare his statements with what Sri Ramakrishna taught." Our conversation next turned to a verse from the Bhagavatam. "Such is the attraction of the Lord that even the jnani, nor a Brahman, who is free from all doubts and desires, is helplessly drawn into motiveless love for him." We asked about the meaning of this verse. How can a jnani be overwhelmed with devotion? "If one is not a jnani," said Latu Maharaj, "how is it possible to be devoted to the one alone, as Krishna states in the Gita?" I will read the footnote. "4 types of men worship me: the world-weary, the seeker of knowledge, the seeker of happiness, and the wise. Of these, the wise men, ever steadfast and devoted to the one alone, is the best, for I am very dear to that man, and he is very dear to me." That one alone is real, and all else is unreal. If you don't realize this truth, how can you have devotion for the one? So long as you are aware of duality, you cannot have love for the one. A jnani does not see God with a divided intellect. He knows that God is his very soul. What is dearest to a man than his own self? It was evening. We accompanied Baburam Maharaj to Kedarghat for Vespers. "Here," he said, "at Manikarnika Ghat, Sri Ramakrishna experienced many divine visions. The solemnity of the twilight in the holy Ganga, the sound of the conch and the bell, the garland of lights, as well as the meditating form of a great soul, brought a thrill to my heart. Silently we began to chant the name of the Lord." Mahakarnika Ghat is the major burning ghat in Varanasi, cremation ground. Very, very holy. They say that Shiva comes to each soul that is cremated there and takes him personally to himself. Any questions about this?
I don't have a question, but this book just gives me such a vision or a feeling for Latu.
Mm-hmm.
More than maybe it's just because of his kind of quirky self, but I feel like, I know him more than the other books that we've read.
I think, I don't know. I feel that because he was so very uneducated, he followed that saying very well, that God is religion is simple, God is simple, you must be simple to know God. He didn't have the intellectual doubts because he had total and absolute faith when he met Sri Ramakrishna, and that was it. And he didn't have to go through all of the mental machinations or doubts or questions that many more highly educated or intellectual people would have to do. He knew what he saw, and that was it. And that kind of faith is exceptional, actually, especially with the kind of discrimination that he chose in the person that he chose to follow. There has to be a certain amount of unquestioning faith, but also discrimination in which Swamiji was the one that tested everything with Ramakrishna. He wanted to make sure that there were no variations, that everything that he said was true. That kind of discrimination. Latu, I don't know, he saw from the heart. Saw from the heart and not from the head. John?
It's reminiscent of Holy Mother in my reading, that someone was very uneducated, very simple.
Yeah, it's the same thing. So, when we meet someone with that kind of realization and holiness, it's not a question of intellect and. I remember once when I was visiting in India, and I was in Kamarpukur, which is Ramakrishna's birthplace, and one of the monks asked me, "Have you ever met anyone who could transmit spirituality without saying anything?" And I thought about it, and I said, yes, I really have. I've met quite a few. And you don't have to, somehow when you get in their presence, you may have a billion questions. But just being there, you go, oh, okay. You don't have the questions anymore. And this happens all the time as people develop. It's not something that doesn't exist anymore. It happens constantly. There are people still in the world that have that ability. And it's not that they always talk about holy things. It's their being that is transmitting. It's not, yeah. It's you know it when you're around people like that. Yeah. Okay, so this Sunday we'll have the gospel reading on. No, we won't have the gospel reading Saturday. We're going to have Swami Sarvadevananda's class on the Bhagavad Gita at 5. So tune in for that one. And then he will give the talk on the 11th, Sunday the 11th. And he has a one-word title, Journey. And I don't know what he's going to talk about, unless it's the journey that we all make. Otherwise, the next event will be the next Saturday, the 17th is Karma Yoga Day. And the class on Wednesday, the 14th, is canceled. Keep that in mind. And the 21st will be Memories of a Loving Soul. Yep, okay. Jai Sri Guru Maharaj Ji Ki Jai. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Okay. And we'll see you when we see you. I'd like to see you all in person, but I know that isn't possible. I look forward to this. I'd like to see your
Thank
face,
you.
Ganga.
Thank you.
We'll see you.
You, Jai Ma.
Jai Ma.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Sorry, we have our steady Zoom attendees. Yeah. I'm sorry? The 17th. The 17th. And at 9 o'clock in the meet down at the convent. Okay?